Alright y'all, today we're going to do a tune-up on a 99 Jeep Cherokee XJ. Plugs, wires, distributor cap, distributor rotor. A step-by-step tutorial for beginners. 6-cylinder, straight 6. It's pretty straightforward. Anyway, I'm going to show you the parts that you need, and I'm going to just go through it step-by-step with you. This is the 4.0 liter. Alright, here are your replacement parts. Got your plugs. Double platinums, pre-gap, but we're gonna check the gap anyway. Because a lot of times pre-gap plugs are pre-gap, but then by the time they get shipped on the truck and brought to the store or whatever, they end up kind of getting knocked around a bit. Spark plug wires, the distributor cap, and the rotor. That's the part number right there. Don't forget, you're gonna need some dielectric grease, some anti-seize. Alright, now that our battery terminal is off, we can go ahead and start pulling out the wires. So something to note right quick. When you pull the wires off, do not pull them by the wire part. Pull them by the little boot, right? Like when they're on there, pull them by the boot. If you pull them by the wire, it's gonna break off, and then you're gonna have a lot of fun. Bloop, pop them off. So once you have them all loose, you just pop them off, you know, right off the plug. At this point, I've gotten the plug boots off of all the wires except for this one, which something tells me the people that did this before did not use any dielectric grease. It is very hard to get off, or it could just be the angle. I'm about to show you a little trick. You got to know what the firing order is and where the plugs are supposed to go on the cap. What we're going to do is we're going to use the old plugs as a model. I've got this tape here, right? So we'll mark, you know, each cylinder or each plug with the tape, so we know exactly where each plug goes. Getting ready to pull the cap off. Phillips head screwdriver. There's 2 screws. Not really that hard. Get 2 screws off here. Probably should be loose now. We probably could just take it right off. Yep. Alright, so like I said, I had already pulled all these plugs, but I left them on where they belong. That way we would know exactly what goes to what. Yeah, it probably won't be a one-handed thing. So it is doable without removing any of the lines. You just have to kind of feed it under that little hose right there. There we go. Now our distributor rotor is visible. Now that everything's out the way, we can go ahead and remove our distributor rotor. Probably going to be the easiest thing of this whole process. It just comes right off. And there's a slit in the middle, so you know you can't put it in wrong. Old rotor and your new rotor. Go ahead and put your new rotor, slide it all the way down. Just heard it snap into place. Very good. So our brand new wires actually came with what appears to be a little bit of dielectric grease. That's a nice gesture, but I would get the tube anyway because most of the time that's not gonna happen. And it looks like these plugs are actually numbered, which that's a real help. Again, most of the time it's not gonna be like that, so you're still gonna want to, you know, do something to make sure that you put the plugs the right way. Alright, so what we're gonna do now is put a little bit of dielectric grease on each one of these little contacts. Okay, so now we have our distributor caps next to each other and they're in the exact same position. Now we're gonna go ahead and start putting the new wires on the new cap, and we can use this as reference. You can see right here clearly it says 1, so that's where 1 goes. Even on the old distributor cap it says that. So you're gonna want to compare all your wires. Just bear in mind that sometimes heat, shrinkage, you know, and difference between aftermarket and like the original manufacturer plugs, they might be slightly different, but they won't be a huge difference, right? Like for example, these two plugs, this is supposed to be plug number 5, but it doesn't look the same. These plugs get contoured to a certain way, so just imagine though, if it was completely straight, would it be, you know, relatively similar? So they might not be, you know, 100% exactly the same, but they will be very similar. You know, for what it's worth, this truck has 180,000 miles on what appears to be the original wires. So using the old rotor as a guide, now we can figure out what goes where. So plug number 6, we are going to put that right here. So number 5. It did click, but it didn't make a click we're used to hearing, but it is on there. Number 4. Number 3. Put that right here. Number 2. Number 1. And lastly, the ignition coil wire. Now that our distributor cap has the wires on it, now it's going to be ready to go back on when it's time. A good way to do it is to have the old wires lined up and then put the new wires to compare them. I pretty much did that as I went, and everything checked out. Right, so now that we did that, it's time to take the old plugs out. For that, you're gonna need a spark plug socket. My toolkit, or my ratchet and socket set came with one, so that's pretty cool. It's a 5/8. That's pretty much the most common spark plug, you know, size there is, but they do have other ones for other vehicles. But for the Jeep Cherokee and most other vehicles, it would be a 5/8. I went ahead and I'm gonna do this plug first, plug number 1. I just kind of move this radiator hose out the way and I'm using an extension. I'm trying to see how I can mount this camera so that you can see what I'm doing. This probably won't work for long. Look at that. This plug looks like it's seen better days. For the last one, you need a short extension to get it. Yep. Alright, so these plugs are pretty worn out. It looks like they haven't been changed in a very long time. Cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So here we've got our brand new plug. So first thing we're gonna do is, again, like I say, these are pre-gapped, but we're gonna gap them anyway just to make sure. And then we're gonna put some anti-seize on these threads, and we're gonna go ahead and start putting them in. So for once, the pre-gap actually kind of is correct. Very, very close. This is where it's supposed to be. Very close. So you're gonna go ahead, put some anti-seize on the threads. So after you're sure that the gap is correct on each plug, go ahead and repeat the process with the anti-seize on the thread. Alright, so all the plugs have been gapped, the threads coated with anti-seize, so now we can put them into the truck. Alright, so when it's time to install the new plugs, a little trick is to just use the extension in the socket without the ratchet. That's because you want to screw them in there gently, because you don't want to cross thread it. Screw them in there gently and get them hand tight. Then you can hit it with the ratchet. Now, you probably should be using a torque wrench. Manufacturers use a set tension to put these plugs in. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've done plug changes, tune-ups on dozens of different types of vehicles. I've never used a torque wrench. Should you do it? Yeah, you probably should. You have to do it? No. Don't want to put the plugs in too loose, because then they could blow out. But you don't want to put them in too tight, because they can warp into the head and you'll never get it out. So when you go to put them in hand tight with this, and then hit it with the ratchet until it's pretty tight, and then just do one more turn, right? So that it's nice and secure. You know it's not, coming loose, but it's also not in there, crazy tight. You just don't want to do that. The ratchet on. Alright, so now it's pretty tight. Move this out the way. Move this out the way. Now, it's on there pretty tight. I just gave it was already tight, then I gave it one extra, so it's on there nice and tight. Same thing again. I got it by hand. So just wanna make sure you got it straight in. Ratchet on. Now it's tight with the ratchet. One more. There you go. Rinse, wash, repeat. I'm gonna do the same thing. All right. There's nice and tight. So let me get some more leverage. Hold on. Switch hands. Nice and tight. All right. 3 plugs in. We got 3 more to go. All right. This one we kind of gotta do a little maneuvering, right? There we go. Engine oil dipstick is kinda in the way. That's alright. Tight. There we go. 4 in, 2 to go. Then nice and tight. And the last one, remember we gotta use the short extension for this one. Tight. So now all our new plugs are in. We got our new rotor on. So now it's time to put the distributor cap back on, attach it, and put the wires to the plugs. So the new distributor cap is in position, not secured yet though, but just go in through here and kind of feed it in between these hoses and lines. It's doable. You got enough space to get it through right here, even with the lines on. So let's secure it down and feed the wires to where they're supposed to go. Now a question might be, how tight do you have to screw these in? Not super tight, just tight. Before we put the wires to the plugs, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a little bit of dielectric grease inside these boots. So for the question of how much, not very. Just put a little bit. That's actually a lot on the inside of the boot. Just kind of rub it in a little. And do the same thing for every boot. Put the plug boot onto the plug. Did you hear that little click? That means it's on. Got the grease on too. Got the little click. Alright, now if you want, you could run the wire through this little thing right here. Number 3. So we got number 4. 4 is gonna come back around through here. There we go. Heard the click. 5. 5 is gonna come through here. Clip, certainly not least the one that goes to the ignition coil right down here. Alright, so last but not least, make sure everything is tight. Firm connections. That's it. Alright, as an added bonus, I'm going to show you how to change out the throttle position sensor. So if you're looking at the engine, be right here. Pop this clip out, pop 2 hex screws out. Hit it, but it's easy, man. Just put the flathead screwdriver on top of this white piece, push it down, and the whole clip comes off. Now it's 2 hex screws, one on this side, one on the other side. So we've got our old throttle position sensor and our new one. As you can tell, there's a slight difference in the aesthetics. Pretty much the same. For what it's worth, these things are screwed in with bolts that have thread locker on them, so if it's kind of hard to get out, that's why. So just line up the new one with the holes. You kind of got to shimmy it in. Now you got it on there tight. So here, slide this clip back on and you are good. So lastly, go ahead and put the negative battery terminal back on. And go ahead and tighten that up. Seriously, looking like one of my next projects is going to be new battery terminals. Tool check. Alright, I think we're good. All right, let's go for a ride. well, there you have it. Tune up on a 99 G Cherokee XJ. Pretty sure it's similar from at least 97 to 01 and probably for many years before, but I can't verify that. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please let me know. If it wasn't, let me know how I could improve. Just give me some feedback, man. Let me know.